Oh, the little people. Yes, yes, they more. Yeah, humans. Silly humans, everyone. My kind shall be taking over the universe. Okay, hey guys, it's Brandy. Today we will be reading Dudley Dursley and the Sorcerer's Stone. Please comment down below if you liked it. I appreciate comments, and every time I get a comment, from now on, either good or bad, I will give you a shout out in my vid. Because I'm just nice like that. But I will, check all your names and such before I start, the next video every time I get a comment. So, yeah. Now, to today's, Dudley Dursley and the Sorcerer's Stone chapter. Now, today, I think I'll do it in a British accent. Sure. Why not? And sorry my mic is horrible, but it's my first one, and at least you have a voice behind the videos. Okay, now, let's do this. Dudley sat bolt upright, panting heavily, screams still echoing in his ears, and light flashed in front of his eyes. As his heart slowed to a normal pace, he realized that he was in a dark bedroom, not lying on the ground at King's Cross, and silent, shakily rubbing his aching head. Just a dream, he thought to himself, and reached out to his sleeping wife to assure him. His hand hit a wall. Panic choked him, and in his struggle to get out of bed, he fell clumsily to the floor. Tangled in the bed sheets, the impact startled him enough that he lay there, moaned in shock, and during that time, his eyes adjusted to the gloom. He looked around, frowning at the toys and clothes strewn about this place, and slowly picked himself up. He surmised that the attack had been real, and that Ron and Hermione must have taken him in, because this wasn't Harry's house. Though why they wouldn't take him to a hospital, he wasn't sure. At any rate, Ariana was safe at Hogwarts, and he'd get an owl from her in the morning. Padma and the twins were at home, safely guarded by Aurors, if there was a need, or else waiting for his return. Something still seemed off, though, and he felt heavy and cramped, so he made... Joe! 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 Say hi to YouTube. Hey, Joe. Come say hi to YouTube. Yeah, that's my Uncle Joe. Yay. He sells stuff on eBay. So yeah, what's your name on eBay, Joe? His name on eBay is Joe'sMo67, so, go check him out. If he has anything you like, you can buy it. So, back to the story. So he made his way quietly to the door, deciding to investigate. He opened it to a very familiar hallway, and hooked the door so tightly and hard that he distantly wondered if it would break. Even dimly lit by a nightlight, there was no mistaking this hall for any other. He moved quietly down it and opened the bathroom to look for something he could use to defend himself. Obviously, whoever had taken the time to construct something like this just to play with a muggle was sick and twisted. Considering the house at Privet Drive had burnt down years ago during the war, the only way to remake it so perfectly was to use someone's memories. As he rummaged in a drawer, Dudley's hand closed on a curling iron, and he lifted it, smothering a slightly hysterical laugh. "Look, Harry," he thought, to his absent daughter. "Now I've got a wand." He quickly wrapped the cord round his wrist to keep it out of the way, and as he did, he happened to glance up into the mirror. What he saw made him freeze. The cord slipping from senseless fingers, the face that stared back at him was not the face of a 30-something father. It was the face of a frightened child. He stared blankly for several long minutes until the words time and spell wound their way into his head. What were those things called? Time changers? But he didn't think it was possible to put someone back in their old body, which meant it had to be an illusion dredged up by his captors. He slowly unwrapped the curling iron cord and placed the whole thing back in the drawer, because it suddenly struck him that whoever had the strength to do this would not be daunted in the least by hairstyling Dudley still couldn't shake the idea that he had somehow travelled back in time, even though he knew that he had to be stuck in an illusion, and mulled it over as he trudged back to a bedroom he hadn't seen in years. In fact, he was still awake when his mother checked in on him a few hours later. The door opened quietly, and Petunia craned her neck around the door, softly calling, "Wake up, dudetas!" When she saw that he was in fact awake, she opened the door fully in surprise, then beamed indulgently. "Oh, sweetums, up early because it's your birthday?" Dudley, feeling more than a little blindsided by this development, was unsure how to proceed. The last time he'd seen his mother had been before the twins had shown magical talent. She'd been a frail bird-like thing, hair gone white from the stress the war had put on her, and had gotten in a row over how she favoured the still non-magical twins over Ariana. Finally, though, he managed to reply that he barely heard, and she was fussing over him, urging him to get dressed. Feeling rather like he'd been attacked by a small hurricane. Had she always done this? Dudley was herded downstairs into the kitchen, where Vernon was poring over the newspaper. A scrawny, dark-haired boy was making breakfast. This, too, was a jarring sight. Vernon had been dead a couple of years now, and Harry, well, he'd just seen Harry, the confident war hero, the war. Yep, that's Joe. He's yelling about how he hates our neighbor Bert. He forced himself not to stare, suddenly aware that it would draw unwanted attention to the small, not Harry illusion or not. He fervently wished to avoid that. "So," Vernon boomed cheerily, lowering his paper, "11! Our Dudley is growing up, eh?" "Okay, Joe. Yeah, he hates our friend, well, Mom's friend Bert, who's our neighbor. So yeah, he forced us not to open the door when it's Bert. Yay. And Bert, if you're watching this, sorry. He hates you. I mean, I bet you could have already guessed that. But okay, back to this. He gestured to Dudley, and Petunia, who still had her guiding hands on his shoulders, pressed a wet lipsticky kiss to the side of his face before taking her seat at the table. Feeling more strained by the second, Dudley moved to stand beside his father, who tousled his hair with a chuckle. "All right, have a look," he said, and it took a moment for Dudley to realise that he was talking about the mountain of presents. Dudley stared at them with barely concealed horror. Harry, bringing breakfast to the table, looked at him curiously, then sat down and began to devour his bacon like it had personally wronged him. Petunia and Vernon, nothing his hesitation, exchanged a worried look that Dudley saw reflected in the picture frame across the room. Moving as if in a dream, he went to the presents and picked up the first parcel, turning it over in his pudgy hands and wondering what on earth was going on. The phone rang, then, and Petunia went to answer it, and when Harry and Vernon, watching with varying degrees of wariness, Dudley began to open his presents for the second time. None of them were particularly interesting to a man in his 30s, but they were a veritable treasure trove to a child. A racing bike, a VCR, video games. He realized that as he unwrapped a gold wristwatch, that he had no idea how his parents could afford so many gifts. Oh sure, there were a few from other people, but the majority weren't. The most expensive one, as it seemed, had been bought by the Dursleys. Petunia returned looking worried and angry, and Dudley happily left the presents alone in favour of listening in. "Bad news, Vernon," she said. "Mrs. Figg's broken her leg. She can't take him." She jerked her head in Harry's direction, and all at once Dudley remembered exactly how things had gone on this particular birthday. The memory was eerily clear in a way it shouldn't have been, considering it had been 26 years. "We could phone Marge," Vernon suggested. "Don't be silly, Vernon. She hates the boy." Dudley glanced discreetly at Harry, who looked torn between hope and resignation, and decided that, illusion or not, he couldn't let things continue as they were. "What about what's-her-name, your friend? Yvonne?" "On vacation in Majorca," Petunia snapped, growing more irate by the moment. Seeing Harry open his mouth, "You could just leave me here," Dudley chose that moment to interrupt. "Let's take him with us," he said, just barely remembering to grunt it out as if he were annoyed. Three heads whipped round to stare at him in shock, and he put on what he hoped was a belligerent face. He can't stay here in the car, so let him come to the zoo. He tries to speak as if that were the end of the matter, and turned back to the present before they could shake their disbelief. From the corner of his eye he could see Harry's mouth hanging open in surprise. Dudley dear, Petunia crooned, getting hold of herself and putting an arm around his shoulders. He's such a sweet, good boy. I know you don't really want him to come with us. I'm sure we can find someone to watch him so your days with Piers isn't ruined. Piers? Dudley had completely forgotten about him. I don't really want to see Piers, he blurted before he could think better of it. He added lamely, he's a giant prat. Harry can come instead. Another stunned silence fell over the room, and Dudley gathered up the discarded wrapping, slipping out of his mother's grasp to throw it away. Okay, so that's all we'll be able to do for today. I only have 5 more minutes, and I'm afraid I won't be able to get through most of this in 5 minutes. I'm sorry, guys, but next time I'll rewatch this 11-minute video, maybe 11:30 seconds minute video-ish, and see where we are, and then I will get back to you. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm gonna wait till it's 11:30, then I'm gonna click done. But guys, I love you. See you next time on this. Bye.